Welcome back to English Tutoring with the Clayton County Library System. I am Courtney Williams from the Lovejoy Library Branch, and I will be guiding you through this tutorial today. The topic this week is Common Grammar Errors Part 2. We are continuing this topic from our last meeting and adding to our knowledge a few more words. The lessons we learned today can be used in our everyday writing, in writing in the classroom, or in something as simple as writing emails. Sounds great, right? Here we go. Today, the words we're learning often confuse us because they mean almost the same thing. In some cases, the confusing part is mixing up the subject with the object form of the word. That's when one word can be used to describe the subject of the sentence and another can be used to describe the object of the sentence. What is the difference between the subject and object? Well, the subject does the action, while the object gets acted upon or receives the action. In today's lesson, we'll see when to use which word correctly. We'll also discuss words that seem right but don't actually exist. We commonly use these words instead of their proper forms. Today, we'll look at them and make them right. So let's get started. First, we have me versus I. Because both of these words identify the speaker, we can easily confuse them in our writing. They are so close in meaning that we might think we can use them either of them at will. Or sometimes we may confuse them when we want to be formal in our writing. Like in the first example, please send the report to Bill and I. To some, this sentence may sound correct, but let's try taking the Bill out of the sentence. Please send the report to I. It no longer sounds right. The reason is because I is used as a subject and not an object. A subject is the person, place, or thing doing something. A subject is always doing the action. An object receives the action. Another general way to remember when to use these words is to look at where they are in the sentence. I usually comes somewhere in the beginning of the sentence because it is the subject. Me usually comes at the end of the sentence or after the verb because it is an object. That's just a general rule of thumb, though. It doesn't apply to all sentences because some sentences are more complex than others. Looking at the second and third example, you can see when to correctly use I and me. I like flowers. Here, I identifies the speaker and is correctly used as a subject. Please send the report to Bill and me. Here, me is used as an object and comes after the verb. So to recap, when describing the subject, which comes at the front of the sentence, use I. And when describing the object, which comes after the verb, use me. Great! Now you're ready for the next one. This one is pretty simple, although we mix these words up often. Who and that. It's easy to think that either choice is correct, but actually each word is used differently. Who is used to describe a person, while that is used to describe something. So, Carrie is a blogger who likes ice cream. We use who because Carrie is a person. His computer is the one that overheats all the time. We use that in the sentence because we are describing the computer, a thing. Just remember, who for people, that for things. Easy peasy. Ready for more? Next, we have these and those. Both are pretty simple to sort out, but sometimes it's tough to know which one to use. Try these to refer to things that are close by. You can have these pencils here on my desk and use those to indicate things that are farther away. Don't forget those books over there on the shelf. You got this. Let's see what's next. Here's another tricky one, lay and lie. We confuse these often because they're so similar, but let's take a look at how they're different. Lay means to put something down. It is used when talking about something. Please lay that crayon down. Lie means to assume, a horizontal position. It's used when talking about a person. It's time to lie down for bed. As long as you remember lie is for people and lay is for things, I think you've got it. Now here is a tough one. IE and EG. It's hard not to confuse the two in our writing, but let's explore how to properly use these terms. IE is short for the Latin expression id est, which means that is, as in that is to say. IE is used to elaborate or fully explain something in detail. Let's look at our example. I like citrus fruits, i.e., the juicy edible fruits with the leathery aromatic rinds. Here, i.e. clarifies the previous statement. E.g., on the other hand, means exempli gratia, which is translated to for example, and is used to give examples. Let's take a look. I like citrus fruit, e.g., tangerines, lemons, and limes. E.g. gives a list of examples for the previous statement. There's another easy way to remember these two. Think about the I in IE as if it stands for in other words. That will help you explain. And think of the E in EG as an example for giving examples. Also, remember in most writing, IE and EG are usually set in parentheses and followed by a comma. Excellent. That's it for the mixed message words. Now on to our second topic in today's lesson. Now that we understand how to tell the difference between some of those worrisome words, we can address those words we like to make up. We'll look at 5 common words we use in our language and writing, but don't use the right way. After a closer look, we'll learn how to use these words correctly. Pretty soon, we'll be speaking and writing like a grammar ace. First, we have could've, would've, should've. This probably sounds all too familiar, but guess what? This combination of words is grammatically incorrect. It could have gone wrong. It would have been nice. He should have worn his hat. All these sentences seem to make sense, but there is no such thing as could have, would have, or should have. The proper way to express these words is by using them in the conditional past tense. That is, when we're talking about something that was possible but didn't happen. To form the conditional past tense, we use have after could, would, and should. That means the correct way to word this expression is could have, would have, should have. She could have won. They would have had a great time. I should have eaten dinner first. The reason we often confuse these is probably because the contractions could have, would have, and should have sound so familiar to the way we mistakenly use them. But just remember to replace that of with have, and you'll be on the right track. Here's one you may recognize. We often use this term in our speech or writing, but anyways is with an S on the end is not actually a word in the English language. Let's look at our examples. I don't like them anyways. Anyways, I found this frisbee. What we really mean to use is the word anyway. It is a conjunctive adverb that basically joins phrases and ideas together in a sentence to clarify what the writer is saying. Anyway can mean in any case, anyhow, nonetheless, or regardless. It can also be used to continue the thread of a story. Let's look at our examples to see how to properly use it. Keep your shoes. I don't want them anyway. Anyway, she came back the next day. If we want to use this word right, We just have to remember to drop the S. Here's a tricky one. When writing about a group, we may be tempted to use theirselves, but theirselves is not a word. The word there is a possessive pronoun that describes something belonging to a group or them. That may be why we get it confused and exchange it for the them in themselves. In our first example, it says, the children can't drive themselves. This, however, is incorrect. The word we should use is themselves. We use themselves when we are describing a group that is the object of a sentence. Remember, that means it's receiving action. The correct way to use it is in our next example. They must take the test themselves. It seems odd, but they are receiving the action of taking the test. And last but not least, teach people to fish for themselves. The people are receiving the teaching, so they are the object, and we use themselves. I think you got it. Let's keep going. This is another made up word that sometimes sneaks into our vocabulary, irregardless. We get this one mixed up perhaps because it is a mix of two words that mean the same thing, irrespective and regardless. In the first example, we see our made up word. Jack could always make her smile, irregardless of her mood. Instead of adding the IR to the front, we should just use regardless, which means not paying attention to the present situation. Regardless can also be replaced with the word anyway, or the words in any case. The correct way to say it is in our second example. She demolished the burger regardless of the fact she had just eaten. Or look at our third example. They were determined to carry on regardless. Sound better? Great! Now we got it right. This one is more easily corrected in our writing than in our speech. It's a lot. And you guessed it, it's not a word. When we write, they have a lot of sweets at the candy store, the way it is here, we can see that the A is combined with the lot. Sadly, that is incorrect. We can't tell when we say it, but the A and the lot are two separate words. The word lot is a noun meaning large amount. Together, a space lot functions as an adverb that means to a great extent. But frequently, when we use a lot, we mean to describe a large number of things. And so we must remember to keep the a and the lot separate. See the correct way to use it in the second example. Elton John had a lot of sunglasses. Or the last example, a lot of people get seasick. So to use a lot the right way, remember, keeping them separate keeps them correct. That's it. You made it. Now you know how to recognize those pesky errors we all seem to make. Here's how you can correct them in your documents. If you're using Word program on your PC, you can simply hit Control and F at the same time. Then type in the word you're looking for, and the program will take you right to every instance where you've used the wrong word. If you're using a Mac with Word program, press Command and F, and it'll do the same. But probably the best way to correct any of these common errors is to carefully proofread your work. I like to start from the last sentence and work my way up to the top. Reading your document backwards sounds funny, but it will help you focus on each sentence by itself and catch those errors we sometimes miss when we get caught up in the flow of our writing while reading normally. Well, that wraps up our lesson, part 2 of common grammar errors. Our references today come from Jenny Baronick's book, Miss Periods and Other Grammar Scares, and Amanda Zantel Weiner's article on 30 of the most common grammatical errors we all need to stop making. Both are excellent sources of knowledge, and both are easy to read. In fact, Veronique's book is available right here at Lovejoy Library for checkout. As that concludes our lesson, are there any questions for today? Well, thanks again for joining us with English Tutoring. Good evening and happy writing.